Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a high-stakes chess match. For decades, the players mostly move pawns indirectly.
Yeah.
Then suddenly, a king makes a direct move.
Right.
That's pretty much what our sources show happened with Iran and Israel in 2025, this huge escalation.
Yeah, it's a really profound shift. It wasn't just another flare-up in their rivalry.
No, it moved from those long-standing indirect clashes.
Yeah.
Proxy wars, cyber stuff.
Exactly. Things like Hezbollah, militias in Iraq, Syria, operations where you had deniability.
Right, plausible deniability.
And then, boom, it moved into open, direct confrontation this year. That's what's fascinating and, frankly, quite dangerous.
So let's trace that. How did this specific dangerous shift actually happen? Where did it start?
Well, the sources really pinpoint April 2025, Israel's airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria.
The consulate, not just any building.
No, a diplomatic compound, that's key. Several high-ranking Iranian military officials were killed in that strike.
And Iran's reaction?
They immediately condemned it, called it a direct violation of international law. The Vienna Convention, protecting diplomatic premises, that sort of thing.
So that specific targeting, hitting a consulate, that really set the stage.
It absolutely did. It crossed a line and led directly to what came next.
Which was Iran's response. Historic, people called it. It seemed to stun a lot of observers. What made it so different?
Well, following that Damascus strike, Iran did something unprecedented. They launched hundreds of drones and missiles directly at Israeli territory from Iranian soil.
Hundreds? From Iran itself?
Yes. And it wasn't just the number, though that was huge. It was the directness. That's the groundbreaking part.
A line they hadn't crossed before.
Never. It moved completely beyond that shadow war footing we'd seen for decades. Our sources really flag this as a watershed moment, a total shift in the rules of engagement.
But most didn't get through.
That's right. Israel's defense system, Iron Dome and others, plus significant help from the U.S. and other allies, they intercepted the vast majority.
So minimal actual damage. But the message was loud and clear.
Exactly. And that high interception rate is actually a crucial detail. It informs the next step in the escalation.
Which brings us to Israel's counterattack. Okay, so they'd intercepted most of it, but Iran had launched a direct attack. How did Israel respond without, setting the whole region ablaze?
Their response was swift, but also, according to our sources, really carefully calibrated.
Calibrated how?
They carried out these precise airstrikes, military sites in Syria, yes, but also in central Iran, including Isfahan.
Isfahan, why is that significant?
Well, Isfahan is crucial. It's known for missile production, nuclear-related facilities nearby. So hitting it, even precisely, is highly symbolic, very strategic.
So not just hitting back, but sending a specific kind of message.
Exactly. What the sources suggest is it wasn't just tit for tat. It was a demonstration, showing reach, showing capability, maybe exposing certain vulnerabilities, forcing Iran to recalculate.
A more nuanced aim than just pure deterrence.
Right. A clear display of what they could do, designed to be impactful, but hopefully stop short of triggering that all-out war.
Okay, so we've walked through the trigger, the unprecedented Iranian response, the calibrated Israeli counter. What does this whole sequence mean for you, for the bigger picture?
Well, the immediate global reactions were intense.
Yeah, the UN calling for restraint pretty quickly.
Right. And you had the U.S., European nations affirming Israel's right to self-defense while also pushing for de-escalation.
And countries like China, Russia, Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
they were also calling urgently for everyone to step back.
Definitely. Lots of diplomatic pressure. But connecting it to the wider impact, you saw increased tensions ripple across the Middle East immediately. Oil prices jumped because of the uncertainty.
Of course, market jitters.
And warnings from groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon signaling that things could spread further.
So the big question then, where does this leave things?
Well, it seems a full-scale war was avoided for now, but the situation is incredibly fragile. It's like this constant tightrope walk, isn't it?
Between retaliation and restraint.
Exactly. And it's heavily influenced by global powers, by complex diplomacy behind the scenes. It's just a stark reminder, really, of how fast regional tensions can threaten global peace.
The whole world watching, hoping diplomacy somehow wins out.
Which leaves us with a pretty critical question, I think. For you, for everyone watching,
Yeah.
What will it actually take to genuinely de-escalate things, to find a more stable path forward in such a volatile part of the world?